It's rare for leaders to take on problems head-on. Most of the times, just try to ignore them. More often than not, leaders are compelled to act. But if you're Xi Jinping, you deal with your problems in a totally different way. You just find a way to ban them. Chinese mouthpieces have been given orders. They're banned from using the word lockdown. So now Chinese media cannot use the word lockdown. They must use a substitute. What would that be? Static management style suppression. That's their substitute for the word lockdown. Static management style suppression. Why not use the term lockdown? Well, for starters, everyone hates them. They hate lockdowns. Authorities in Shanghai have another reason for this. They are the ones who issued these orders. And here's how they explain it. Why this word should be banned. And I'm quoting from the directive that was sent out. Unlike Wuhan, Shanghai never declared a lockdown, so there is no ending the lockdown. 25 million people in Shanghai suffered for 2 months. Thousands went into centralized quarantines. Their houses were fenced. It was China's harshest lockdown since Wuhan 2020. And now Chinese officials in Shanghai say the lockdown never happened. They had more instructions for the media. And I'm quoting again, all parts of Shanghai underwent static management style suppression and suspensions, but the city's core functions kept operating throughout this period, emphasized that related measures were temporary, conditional and limited. Now this is classic Chinese censorship. Twist the facts, obfuscate the reality. Just make the Chinese state, especially the leadership, look good. Well, those tactics are not working this time. They do not work all the time. Sometimes you just cannot hide the truth. On this show, we've been telling you about China's economic troubles, how zero COVID has hit the Chinese economy. They lost at least $46 billion every month during these lockdowns. Chinese Premier Li Keqiang has been sounding an alarm. He's been calling the situation a crisis. Premier Li has not been getting along with Xi Jinping, it seems. There is growing speculation about the two leaders. We told you about all of this on this show. Now, fresh reports have come out and they've added more fuel to the fire. Last week, the Chinese Premier held a meeting. Thousands of officials from across the country participated. In that meeting, Premier Li gave a grave assessment of the Chinese economy. He said China faces an even worse economic crisis than 2 years ago. Premier Li told these officials that they must prioritize economic growth. And the message trickled down to the bottom, but these officials were confused. They don't know who to listen to now, Xi Jinping or Li Keqiang. Both are giving different advice, it seems. Xi Jinping says, control the infections, bring Wuhan virus cases down to zero. Li Keqiang wants them to achieve their growth targets. So who should these Chinese officials listen to, the president or the premier? This dilemma has led to confusion. 8 senior Chinese officials have spoken out. They work at the local level. They say there is now a policy paralysis in China. So the question arises, are China's top 2 leaders at odds with each other? Is Premier Li challenging President Xi? Again, all of this is a matter of speculation, but the differences between these two leaders are becoming more obvious and out in the open. Premier Li does not defend China's zero COVID policy. Neither does he agree on the vaccination policy. The Chinese premier recently met with some foreign business leaders. The issue of China's poor vaccination rate came out. Around 48 million people remain unvaccinated in this country. And these are people above 60 years of age. Just 51% of citizens above 80 are vaccinated in China. Premier Li was advised to give more shots. Here is what he told the business executives, and I'm quoting, I hear your message about vaccines and we will expand vaccination coverage. We can't have companies stopping their operations. Perhaps they could start by using a different vaccine, anything other than the Chinese shots. Now, we don't know what the equation is like between Xi Jinping and Li Keqiang today, but they certainly don't agree on a lot of issues. And no amount of censorship can hide that fact. WION is now available in your country. Download the app now and get all the news on the move.